if you are assured in who you are, what you are about, how you want to show up, then regardless of all these things coming at you, you are going to be better at being steady as opposed to be oscillating. You have more agency than you think. And while we all have different life circumstances and life experiences, the one common theme is that we're all in a relationship to ourselves. The only thing you can ever solve for is yourself. There's no one or nothing else you can solve for, because life's not always fair, but that doesn't mean that you don't have some level of agency. And in any situation, identify that. You're in a productive mindset and not in a victim destructive mindset. Own your life.
Today I'm joined by Ankita Rao. She runs a transformation mentoring practice.
Yeah.
And she's not my full-fledged mentor per se, but she played a huge part of my transformation. And the level of clarity, wisdom, and grit she manifests was really remarkable.
That's great to hear. Thank you, Thomas.
Yeah, I'd like to add more to her background.
Absolutely. I can give a brief introduction on who I am and what my story is. That's how I like to phrase it. Sure. So I am Ankita Rao. I am a product of multiple things, as we all are. So number one, I am a third culture individual, which means that I have grown up and lived and worked in multiple countries. So was born in India. My family moved us to Tokyo, Japan when I was 3, and then grew up between Japan, India, and Kuwait. And then I came to Canada for school. So that's number one at 18. And I'm a product of having professional experiences across multiple sectors, across management consulting, social impact, international development, and the public sector. And number 3 is I have always aimed to follow a purpose-driven path. So that is who I am.
Do you think the purpose-driven path is a thread that links you from now to our childhood?
It is one of the two things. So in terms of the common thread that has existed from childhood to now, one has really been around agency. And what do we mean by agency? What is it can I control, but also understand what it is that is out of my control. And I think that came about because of the way that I grew up. 8 different schools, 4 different countries, multiple languages. A lot of things were out of my control. And so I really have to start honing into what is in my control. So agency is number 1. And number 2 has always been asking the question, why? Why am I being asked to do something? Why am I doing something? And that ties to the purpose-driven path side of it and the impact side of it.
When did you find there is a line between what you can control, what you cannot control? So what's the awakening?
Right. That's a good question. I think for a lot of people, just from stories and everything that I've heard, a lot of people describe it as having this one moment of awakening. It's like I was living my life, then bam, got hit by a truck, and then I woke up and everything changed. I would say I had multiple moments of that throughout. And one particular moment that I can talk about later, which culminated in me reflecting on all of these small moments. But it really started, I would say, as young as when I was even under 10 years old and asked to behave a certain way, be a certain way, wear certain things. That was coming from cultural expectations. So it started with me questioning that, and then it just built upon from there.
People throw sandwich down the throat.
Yeah, it's, the adults are talking, right? So go play in your room. Why? Right? Living in a fairly conservative country or countries growing up, you cannot wear shorts while you're outside as a 12-year-old. Why? What makes me different than my brother? Why? Right? Or also living in a country where there was uber wealth around me. My family didn't necessarily participate in that, but the people around me did. And wondering, why is it that certain people have cars and drivers and cooks? It's great if they can afford it, but why do they have that? And what am I doing with what I have been given? Why am I waking up every day?
We ask these questions internally.
It would externalize. It would manifest as an external question of why, and it would be seen as being rebellious a lot of times. And perhaps I did come across that way, but looking back, I know that was my way of questioning the world.
So if you give a few categories, what are the things you were rebellious against, and what are the things you are still against and you believe people should free themselves from?
Oh, I love that question. The broad conceptual category is, and I'm going to tie this back to agency, is the fact around there's nothing I can do about it. And for me, the way I characterized it for myself was a victim mindset, right? How do you go from a victim mindset to an owner mindset? I have two choices in any situation. I can either sit back and say, oh, too bad, it was this person, it was this situation, it was this thing, and take it for what it is and be afloat and be pushed around. Or I can lift myself above it, understand the situation that I'm in, and life's not always fair. Not everyone has the same privileges of certain other folks. I completely acknowledge that, but understand the landscape in which I'm operating and then say, okay, these are things that are not in my control. There's nothing I can do about it, so I'm not even going to worry about it, but I can see it. But what is in my control? And now how can I use that as my lever going forward?
So could you give me one or two examples that you implement these findings?
Okay, so one example, and maybe I will give this example from what really reconnected me to my roots in yogic philosophy, because I think this is tied, right, in terms of actually showing it in action. So I had this moment a few years ago where I remember waking up, somehow getting dressed, battling Toronto Transit, which we all know is unreliable, getting into the office and not knowing how I got there. I remember opening my emails, checking, responding, getting on a call, nodding, completely on autopilot. And then a few either minutes or an hour later, I just remember circling the office, lost, disconnected. I had tears down my eyes and I had no idea why. And that forced me down a path of reflection. I took a 2-week break. I stepped back, really forced to reflect. And I realized, where I talked about there are moments of awakening that I had, reflected on a lot of situations where I said, you know what? Yes, there were people, situations, sometimes toxic, that didn't necessarily help. But the real culprit was how I let those things treat me that way, how I let myself act a certain way and become something that I wasn't comfortable with. And so that then became my driving force in living examples every day of, if I'm saying yes to something, is it because it is expected of me, someone has told me I should, or is it something that I can stand behind? Right? So for people who are in a corporate world and in a 9-to-5 world, are you saying yes to that project because you think that it's going to make you look great and going to get you that promotion and going to one up your colleagues? Or are you saying yes because that is in true alignment with who you are and an expression of who you are? And that's a good example of discerning. Because if you take one path, maybe that is what you want right now. But it could be that the more you start solving for that, it's going to be a never ending. But if you solve for the second path, if that is what you truly want, then regardless of the outcome, you're never going to regret that decision.
You were in like autopilot mode.
Completely.
And there is a lot of misalignment.
Mm-hmm.
How many years were you in the labor force when it happened?
Right. 15th year. 15th year of labor force. And by this time, I had experienced 4 different sectors across 4 or 5 different countries.
Yeah, it really like the trauma triangle, right? Savior, victim, prosecutor, and yeah, it's an interesting way to look at it.
Yes.
And I can resonate with you that I start to run away these things, but it's not the end, right?
Right.
It's just a start.
Right.
Because once you start running away from things, you may have a victim mindset. Is these people, is these institutions, the system, everything. You can be there, right? But it's not somewhere that you can linger forever.
Exactly.
And once you move towards running away from things to building something, and you may start to own things and take back control.
Yes, 100%. The phrase that I use for myself and even individuals that I mentor is, are you running away from something or running towards something? Right? And that running towards something is not an easy thing to find, because it comes back to understanding who you are.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about this resentment and running away from things. How long did you stay in that phase? Or did you ever stay in that phase?
So whenever I work with people on this, I work with people based on concepts that have worked for me. Because if it hasn't worked for me, then it's not something I'm going to share. So I'll start with what has worked for me, and then what I've expanded to people that I've worked with. There's a concept in yogic philosophy as well around kleshas, or they're called your blockers. And that is in context of something bigger that we can talk about. But one blocker that perhaps keeps us in the loop of running away from something is something called misperception. So we have perhaps inadvertently projected a narrative or a story on a person or a situation that is not true. It's a hypothesis that we have not tested. So misperception. There is ego. So we are running away from something because we have some sort of a superiority or inferiority complex going on. Superiority in that it could be, oh my God, I have just been asked to make this presentation, but it's my ego is getting in the way, and if I don't perform well, then that's it. I'm not going to do it. So I run away from something. I'm not intentionally stepping back to give. And the intentional stepping back in that example would be, I would like to give a junior employee a chance to develop and grow, because that is who I am. So I'm intentionally stepping back, not out of ego or fear. So ego is another one. Actually, fear, speaking of which, fear is another one, right? Are you running away because of fear? So there are certain of these elements or kleshas or root blockers that you can bring to analyzing in any situation, going, am I experiencing any one of these things? If yes, then perhaps I'm running away from it. If not, then the solving of what am I running towards, that's a whole other conversation.
Earlier you mentioned your true self.
Yes.
I mean, it's a concept that everyone wants to find it eventually.
Yep.
There are a lot of things that prevent them or holding them back
100%.
from finding it. What do you think these things are?
This is a very meaty question. So I'm going to answer that by introducing 5 key concepts from yogic philosophy that resonated with me. And I've dropped, some of them kind of throughout this, but I want to start there. I also want to start by acknowledging that these are not concepts that I have come up with. These are concepts that have been rooted in ancient yogic Indian wisdom for millennia. There are multiple concepts that resonate with different people. These are very much not the only concepts that exist. These are very much concepts that resonated the most with me, that I could put into a framework that worked for me, and now I'm seeing helping others. So just that kind of note of acknowledgement. Concept number 1, dukkha. A lot of people have probably heard of that term because of the rise of the knowledge around Buddhism, etc. But dukkha is a much more ancient concept than that, and it's sometimes mistranslated as sadness. But really, it's a concept that is meant to encapsulate feelings of restlessness, dissonance, confusion, anxiety, something feeling off. Okay, so you've got your dukkha, something that is your entry point to personal transformation. If you are feeling that in any facet of life, That's your dukkha. So the step number 1 is naming your dukkha or dukkhas, right? What is it? Then there are 3 concepts that kind of work together that follow that. Concept number 2, the Purusha, your true self. The best way that I can explain it is to envision it like an iron rod. It's a solid iron rod. It is never changing. It is permanent. It just is. Concept number 3, the Prakriti. You can imagine Prakriti as a fog that surrounds that iron rod of Purusha. So I call it the Prakritic fog. And that consists of all your roles, your identity labels that you take on in life, right? Parent, sibling, daughter, son, employee, business owner, partner, what have you. And the expectations you put on it, all the held beliefs, all the stories you've told yourself, all the stories other people have told of you. And the more of that you have, the foggier that is, and it blocks you from seeing your Purusha. And then the third concept number 4, because you got dukkha, Purusha, Prakriti, concept number 4 of drashta, which is witness consciousness. It's really a practice of raising yourself above all that, kind of this overarching eye that can see through what is your Purusha, what is your Prakritic fog, so that you can start living from the Purusha and not the fog. And then concept number 5, that then leads you to living a life in samadhi, which is an equanimous way of being. It's neutral. It is, you are, I am. There is no roller coaster of emotions associated with it. It is neutral. So those are kind of the 5 concepts that takes you through that transformation journey. And the work comes in, okay, how do we now identify what your Purusha is? That starts with unraveling with some key questions and facilitation. What is that Prakritic fog blocking you from seeing your Purusha? And then what are some practices to live from drashta and witness consciousness? And then how do you now enable samadhi on a daily basis?
Is there any simple or simplified way we can share today for the folks that are not your clients?
Absolutely. So simple is a difficult word because obviously a lot of this it's not complex. It is something that takes time. I would say a starting point, and this is what I use with people that I work with, is an exercise that I call moments that reveal me. And that's an exercise that is only one of many that starts to unravel, to name your dukkha and start understanding that Prakritic fog and who your Purusha, the essence of your Purusha. So 2 or 3 questions, right, that you can ask yourself and start reflecting on. What are some things in my life to date that I said yes to, but I wish I hadn't? What are some things that I said no to, but I wish I hadn't? What are some things I regret? And I will say that, because I've also had these situations where when I've asked this to people at the beginning, they don't have an answer, because that also happens. And I say, I can still work with you, but you may not be best placed to do this work. And then I say, you may need more life experience. You may need to then go out and do more. Like if I'm hearing, I have 0 regrets. There is nothing that I would have said yes to and nothing that I would have said no to, and I regret that. Then either there's a lot more reflection to be done, or maybe there's a lot more to go out and do and experience and fall flat on your face to really discover who you are.
Difficult for people to just come out from college and to be 100% aligned with everything. It's not practical.
So I've thought about this question because it's a very, very good question. Because of my own background and experience, I don't like to put a specific age or life stage to that, because I don't think that's fair to the varied experiences that people have, right? Someone in one part of the world at 19 or 20 may have had so much experience because of their family, where they're living, just life reasons, compared to a 19 or 20-year-old somewhere else. So I think it would be unfair to say if you're of a certain age or a certain stage of life, you're not ready. I think it's more around, again, the life experiences that you've gained to date. Because there are some people in privileged situations who have been sheltered from a lot, even up until they're 30, 40, 45. And there are some people who have really seen a lot in life and had to deal with a lot in life by the time they're 20. And so the life experiences that they've gained has nothing to do with their age.
They have to see enough of things they don't like to know what things they like.
100%.
From a victim perspective, it's all about the society
Yes.
forcing on us. It's a certain group of people that is oppressing. It's the boss, is the family, is parents.
Yes.
Yeah, the teachers.
Yes.
Everything. Maybe it's more about a person, their own weakness.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I want to underscore the point again that in 100% theory, yes. I also want to acknowledge the true lived realities of different people in different parts of the world, right? Because there are real hard life constraints, and some people face a lot more of them than others, depending on your age, your background, your culture, where you come from, the passport you hold, all of that, right? I want to be very, very clear about acknowledging that. And it goes back to, but there's the one thread that exists among all of that is that we all have a relationship to ourselves, right? And the only thing you're ever truly solving for is yourself and your relationship to yourself. So it's about understanding the system in which we're operating. It's not about ignoring it because it's very real, right? Some people have it harder than others. It's acknowledging it, seeing it, and then knowing, okay, maybe there are certain things I cannot control, so there's no point worrying about it, but what do I want to do? Maybe I want to change the system. Maybe that is part of my Purusha. Okay, but then that's coming from a place of alignment with my true self, not out of, I'm going to show them, but it's coming from a place of, this is truly how I believe that I want to be showing up in the world. Or you can decide, I see it, I acknowledge it, life's not fair, I cannot control it, but what can I control? I'm going to go build that.
Do you think it is like a common path that people from autopilot, paralyzed by these weakness or external factors, to someone who is semi-awake and to someone who's fully awake? Do you think that this is a path that everyone has to go through one by one? Or think different people have different paths?
I think you'd have different paths. Like there's no way that it's linear. I don't think either of us can sit here and say we know what human life is like, right? Like we have solved. I don't think any one of us has solved it. I think you can also go through moments of awakening and then going back into darkness for yourself, because you don't know what life is going to throw at you, which is why the concept of samadhi becomes even more important, because there are going to be these external forces that is constantly coming at you. But if you are self-assured in your Purusha and who you are, I actually intentionally do not use the word confidence anymore. I feel like confidence is a band-aid word. It's something that you can wear. Again, this is me personally, my experience with it. I always felt it as a costume that you put on, versus self-assuredness as something that actually comes from within. If you are assured in who you are, what you are about, how you want to show up, then regardless of all these things coming at you, you are going to be better at being steady as opposed to be oscillating. And so, yes, you could be oscillating with, oh, boom, I had something come at me. I had a death in my family. I had a divorce. I got laid off. These are realities that everyone is facing. So maybe you start questioning life again, right? Maybe you were sure. You're like, I have an awakening. These very real things happened to me. I went back down. So you can definitely go up and down. But if you've done the work of understanding that your Purusha is permanent, it is what it is, and all of these things happening, you are but just a witness to all of this. Your physical body is not you. your Purusha is you, your physical body is not you. So everything that's happening is not to you, it's happening to your existence, and you're lifting yourself out of that through witness consciousness. It becomes easier to live in that heightened state of awakening.
Physical body is just like a package.
Yes, yes.
And people are made of spirits or
yes.
energy.
In a way, and I realize this conversation sometimes turns people off, right? Like it turns a lot of people off. They're like, "What are you talking about? It's woo-woo." I don't see it that way. I'm trying to find a good way to articulate it. I see it as if we externalize ourselves, i.e., if a slight has been made to you at work, and I'm going to use the work example because a lot of us are in this situation, right? Someone says something to you in a work meeting or at work, and you're like, how dare they? How could they say that to me? Right? So in that situation, you have taken that, internalized it, thinking that it's about you. That's where a bit of the ego is coming in and potentially misperception is coming in, right? You've absorbed it and it's affecting you because you're in it. Option B, you lift yourself out of that situation. You're like, you know what? This person they happened to say it. They happened to say it to me. So what? What is it that I'm solving for? Who am I? And I'm solving for that. So what does that I really need from this moment? So in option A, if you're being reactive, then maybe you become passive aggressive to that person. Maybe you call that person out. Maybe you vent. Maybe you escalate. Maybe you go to HR. Not non-viable options, but maybe there isn't a clear understanding of what is the outcome you're seeking. But in option B, it's okay, that happened. What is the outcome I really want? I want an outcome where I have peace in my 9 to 5 where I go. I don't want to rock the boat. I just want to I want to do a good job. I want to deliver on the outcomes that I want to deliver. So that is what I'm solving for, i.e. myself. So what is the best course of action that I need to take there? Maybe it's letting that go and moving on and seeing if it happens again. Maybe it's gently asking the person and clarifying, hi, can I understand your point of view? And being genuinely curious. And that way you're not being reactive, but you're trying to understand someone else's point of view and what happened there to achieve a greater outcome.
Being truly curious about what people's intentions and drives and motivations, whatever behind it. So things are less personal, or these people are saying things just because you are a reflection of who they are, right? And maybe they see things they don't like from you. It's not you personally. It's
or maybe they're on their own journey. Like I've heard that concept, and I'm not a psychologist, so I'm not going to pretend to be, and I don't have an opinion on that. But just based on my personal experience being in these spaces, because we're all on our own journeys, maybe the person, it was like the 5th time that they were being challenged, and you just happened to be on the receiving end of it, right? Maybe the person had no other way to express it, and this is the only way they know how, right? Maybe they have not lifted themselves out, and this is the only thing that they know and only way they know how to be. So it typically, it's not that it doesn't have to do with you. Maybe they just don't like you. That's also possible. Maybe it is you. It's okay to say that, right? Maybe it is you. But then does that matter? Becomes the question.
Be laser focused on important things.
Yes. Yes.
And the important things are the true self.
Yes.
And mission.
So the biggest thing is like I said before, you're in a relationship with yourself. You're always solving for yourself, not in a selfish way. I always say that it's not whatever I want. That's it, and if other people are adversely affected, I don't care. That's not what I'm saying. When you're in a relationship to yourself and you're the only thing you're solving for yourself, part of that then comes into your core values. Like I know part of my core values is I want to leave a positive impression with the people around me, and not positive in a fake way, but positive in a, going back to the purpose-driven path, did I leave a positive impact on you? Right? Or did our interaction result in a positive impact mutually? Maybe you left a positive impact on me, which happens a lot, right? Did we, in this situation, the two of us, the five of us, did we leave this situation better than when we came into it? So if that's part of my core values, and what I'm solving for is myself, and that is my values, then in every situation, that is what I'm solving for. So maybe in a terse situation at work or personal life, I don't have a desire to escalate that. Because that is, and not because I'm passive, not because I'm stepping back, not because I'm conflict avoidant, but I'm making a conscious choice to solve for that core value.
You want to achieve kind of betterment for everyone that you have interaction with.
Say that is part of my Purusha, right? Because, and why I say that and why I know that is going back to that exercise around moments that reveal me. One of those questions in there as well is, what are certain situations or events that left you feeling shaken or flustered, right? And what are some situations or events, or what activities or tasks are you doing where you feel at peace and balanced? And so on the first question for me, if I'm in a situation where, because I do absorb other people's energies, that's who I am. And so if I'm in a situation where I'm sensing tension and I'm sensing conflict, it doesn't make me feel good. So the reason that I'm solving for that, and my definition of purpose-driven path, is not for some altruistic reason. It's that is genuinely an expression of my Purusha. I want to leave this in a, doesn't have to be a happy and everything solved place, but I want to leave it peacefully. So that could be unresolved, but we're leaving it peacefully because then I'm at my best self and balanced self. So in a way, it's self-serving, but not in a selfish way.
Oh. Yeah, to go back a little bit, you mentioned confidence is a band-aid word. Why is
So again, different people will have different opinions on this. This is coming from a place of what has worked and not worked for me. For the longest time, the number of times I was told as part of being mentored or being coached in the traditional work sense, Ankita, you just need to have more confidence. And my response has always been, I know myself. I have lots of confidence. That's not my challenge. And then number two, what I would notice is just generally people in life that I noticed who were successful on their own terms. I don't mean in terms of money. I don't mean in terms of title. People who felt that they were successful, people who saw themselves as successful, were not, they may have appeared confident, but what I noticed is more than that, they were really assured in what they were doing and why they were doing it. And so confidence came as a result of that, not as an entry point. And I've just observed that a lot of people take that word confidence and say, oh, all I have to do is show up and just act like I know what I'm talking about, even when I don't. And to me, maybe for some people that works, for me that never worked, because this goes back to understanding the why behind everything. I need to understand, why am I doing something? Why am I being asked to do something? Why am I being asked not to do something? And that flows into, okay, now I'm sure of who I am, and based on who I am, how I'm showing up in terms of my thoughts, behaviors, and my actions. And now, if I'm self-assured in that, then the outcome doesn't matter. And I'll give an example where when I had a chance to go out to West Africa for doing a complete career pivot to going to international development, that choice came, people would say that was so brave of you, so confident for you to go out and do it. I said it was neither of those things. It was, I knew that 5 years from now, if I didn't go for it then, I would regret it. So that goes back to the question around regret. And because of that, there was an assuredness that had internalized in me where I have to do it. I have to find an opportunity because there is no other way it can be. And then that turned into, because I'm not doing this for anyone else but me and I'm solving for myself, and I'm self-assured in that, the outcome doesn't matter. It could go terribly. I could go there and hate it in 6 months. I could go there and love it in 6 months, but that's not why I'm doing it. So because the outcome doesn't matter anymore, I'm doing it as an experience. I can then go in there without that pressure of performing and just be and take in whatever it has to give me and not worry about what other people are saying or doing or the validation. So that's why that to me is the difference between self-assuredness and confidence.
To fabricate confidence is tied to the values, right? Do you believe in authenticity or you believe in results, right?
Right.
Do you sacrifice authenticity for results?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's a serious question to answer, right? And different people may have different answers, but it shows the values beneath it.
It's interesting that you put either authenticity or results.
For the world in general,
Yes,
right?
yes.
The more authenticity you have, the better results you may get in the long term.
In the long term,
Yeah.
yes. And it may not be the results that you think you're seeking, because it's also the term results. What does results mean? Right? Like, how do you, it's a KPI. How are you measuring results? Is results a higher job title and higher pay? Is results a better family life? Is results peace of mind? What is results?
Yeah, if you have to fake confidence
Right.
to deliver some results, maybe a question you need to ask is, do I love this job
Right,
from the first place?
right.
Yeah, it's interesting. You mentioned you moved to a lot of jobs in different countries. Do you think your current like methodology and ideology are shaped by your experience moving around or just in Canada?
Oh, 100% moving around. And I will also acknowledge the privilege of having grown up just before I even turned 18, right? Or like by the time I turned 18, it was 4 different countries and 8 different schools. So 100% the way that I think, the way that I show up, it's completely been shaped by, it's not the moving around as much as the exposure to different ways of being and thinking. And what I notice now when I show up every day is it's really easy to fall into the trap of, because we're all humans, it's a human fallacy, we all have it. My way is the only right way of thinking. But from a very young age, when you're forced to go to a school in a culture that's not your own at home, right? I went to an American school in Tokyo. I went to a British school in Kuwait. I went to 3 different Indian state schools, all with their own languages different from what I speak at home. In the languages, in the cultures, is automatically also shaped the way in which a particular community and a particular culture shows up and thinks, right? Some cultures think black and white and results oriented. Some cultures are more family oriented. Some cultures are more process driven. There are so many different ways of thinking and being. So that has definitely influenced how I show up, where I won't say it's only my way. I will say, here's an option. Here's how I am seeing it. It may not be the only way. I think we need to invite opinions A, B, and C. But sometimes that's in juxtaposition to what others say, to say, no, you just have to own your way. You just have to do it your way. And I say, well, my way could be right, but it may not be right. I don't know. You don't have a blueprint for this. So it is always an interesting challenge for me personally when I show up every day, because sometimes that is seen as you don't have a point of view, when rarely I see it as I have a very strong point of view, and my point of view is that there is no one right way of seeing it. And what we really need is multiple points of view, and the real skill is in facilitating that and then coming out with something that's even stronger and better.
Be open-minded.
Very.
Because of these experiencing
Yes.
countries.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Yeah, to me personally, I was living in this profit-driven society and corporates 10 years,
Right.
perhaps. And yeah, this is this year, 2025,
Right.
that start to be exposed to more people with different mindset or different methodologies, and to see they can really thrive with different methodologies and different way of living.
Yeah.
It had like a mind blowing effect. It's really great.
Yeah.
I think I'm fortunate to meet some of the people who are very open to talk about these things, because I mean it's a two-way street, right? The person has to be like a mentee has to be open-minded.
100%.
The mentor has to be not necessarily open-minded, but need to be warm, supportive, so that they can truly help a mentee. Really fortunate to have a mentor or a program or like a service that could help a person transform.
Yes.
Because it's difficult. But once it clicked, everything just everything just different.
Exactly. Yeah.
When did you find yourself to be truly fascinated about yogic philosophy?
Yes. So this goes back to the burnout story that I mentioned, right? I will say it is part of my roots, right? I'm originally from India. Yogic philosophy originated, and no shock to anyone, in the Indian subcontinent millennia ago. And now reflecting, it wasn't clear to me back then, but when I reflect now, it was very evident that I was raised with those teachings, right, in my everyday life growing up in my house, because it's very in a lot of families that's ingrained. But of course, when you're a kid, you don't want to listen to mom and dad, right? You think they don't know what they're talking about. So I didn't value it for that. I didn't value as much what my parents, my grandparents, my aunts and uncles were saying. Not that I agree with 100% of everything they say even today, but there were parts of what they were saying that I then realized when I started studying it resonated. So it was my burnout moment, which, yes, it was not just that situation, but I will say honestly, it was leading up from 15 years of the work life, and of, the 20 years before then of changing countries consistently and being a third culture individual. It just hit the breaking point. That happened to be the breaking point. And I knew there had to be something more than, and I want to emphasize this, more. The thing that really got to me is that I had been doing everything right. And I put that in quotation marks, right? Take the breaks, do the breathing, do the journaling, right? In terms of your personal, take the time for yourself, work out, drink water. I was like, great, check, 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 check. I'm doing all that. And then on the performance oriented side, I was doing everything right. Set the SMART goals, say yes to all the hard tasks at work, show up everywhere, push through the sickness, like all of that, right? I was doing all of that. And I'm like, okay, but this still isn't working. I know tactically that all should work, but I am not at peace with any of this. I am not solved for. And it was really on a whim when I woke up and I said, I'm really curious about my roots. It goes back to curiosity. I was like, I need to latch myself into studying something. And I was like, maybe that's what I'm missing. I need to get into something that's bigger than me. I need to get into philosophy. And because I had this lying around, and because I was connected to it through my family, I actually picked up the Rig Veda, which is, as everyone knows who knows Hinduism, right? There's many books in the Vedas as part of it. And I picked that up, and the first verse was some around Agni, or fire. And yes, there was a part of it which is very ritualistic and dogmatic, and that's not what I'm talking about at all. But I remember reading that word, and there was something in me where about like fire. Fire is agency. Like if there's fire in you, is agency. And that stuck with me. And then I got down to the yogic philosophy side of it. And there are, again, multiple texts in that culture. Two that stood out to me were the Sankhya Karikas and the Yoga Sutras of Patanjali. And the Sankhya Karikas predates Patanjali's Yoga Sutras. And so when I started reading, and I finished reading the Sankhya Karikas, that is the non-dogmatic, non-ritualistic way of being philosophy, where these 5 key concepts that I explained before actually came out of. So really, all of this was born out of intellectual curiosity. I was like, I've tried all these things, not working. Something in me was telling me, it's like intuition, call it whatever it is, go back to these things. I was Googling, I think GPT had just come out at that time. I was in ChatGPT. I'm like, where do I start studying all this? I went to Amazon, ordered the books, started reading it, and that's where things started clicking. I was like, oh, I have been thinking about this completely the wrong way, and no one has explained it to me in this way before.
This concept, original, they are using the same as they were invented like 1,000 years ago, or you reframe it to the modern?
Good question. So the terms in and of themselves, like Dukkha, Purusha, Prakriti, Samadhi, like that all exists in the actual text. I have, just like with any philosophy, right? You take it and interpret it and apply it. There's very much an interpretation that I have made for what I believe then worked for me. It's not rooted in anything. It is rooted in something through my own research that I've found out. But yes, it was interpreting it for the realities of today and how can we apply that for today? Because it's really easy to say, oh, I guess the answer is giving everything up and going into the forest and, just renouncing the world. and that's not what this is about. This is, how do you live with that state of mind in this chaotic world? And how can we bring those ancient concepts that had so much truth in them to this day and age? And they still hold validity, but how can we apply that to ourselves now? And I'm sure that different people can apply it and reframe it to their own lives. I know I can speak to corporate individuals and 9-to-5ers because I've lived that. I'm sure I cannot speak to people with different life experiences. Maybe they can have a different interpretation of it for themselves.
Yeah, there's a concept I really like to explore. Do you or do most people have different sets of values or principles in the corporate settings or personal settings?
Okay, so I'm going to reframe this because I think that it is a fallacy because, again, this is where I was. And maybe some people are already more advanced and they've figured this out. Kudos to you. I had not figured this out, where I was showing up as different personas and a different person in different facets of life. So I was like, work Ankita with friends, Ankita when she's by herself, Ankita in a relationship. And then that goes back to the values. It's like, oh, if I'm at work, then my values include things like, like being super outcome oriented and setting the SMART goals and doing this, blah, 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 right? Okay, Ankita in like personal and friend life is, okay, loyal, like wants to make time for friends, et cetera, et cetera. And on the surface, sometimes it feels like they're in conflict. And that's where yogic philosophy, like the concept of Purusha, you are that one person. All these roles is just a different manifestation of your Purusha. You are just that one person behind all. You're the same person behind all of these roles. Now, it's like a lever, and you can, push forward on one lever of side of you in certain aspects and pull back on other levers to control it and really discern and really lift yourself up and see how you're operating. But you are that one person. So actually, no, I am Ankita with my one set of core values, and because it cannot be any other way, because as soon as I deviate from those core values to try and fit someone else's narrative or live a chapter in someone else's story, boom, I'm back to dissonance.
So, yeah, do you think people out there have different sets of values in different settings, or is the same?
My personal hypothesis is, and this is only going based off of the people I've talked to and the work and all of that, when we start doing this work and unraveling, it comes out that people have one set of core values, and maybe they've put Band-Aid values on top of it to say, oh, I know this is who I am, but this is how I need to show up. And maybe you can operate that way. Maybe you can operate as two different people and put on a mask and shut off one side of you. Maybe. I don't want to presume that people cannot just because I can't. But what I've noticed, the people who are attracted to this kind of work, at least, they come for a reason. They're saying, I'm living differently as different people. And then when we start doing the work, realize, oh, it's because I am actually this person and I am not able to express who I am in this facet of life. And that's why I'm feeling dissonant.
At my personal life, I try to be, I assume I am someone who's really calm, supportive, warm, loving,
Right.
whatever. And in my corporate life, in the past, I was like value driven, very mean, very harsh. Yeah, if you don't get me the results, I will punch you to the end of the world. And I think the difference matters, right? The bigger the difference, the more like misaligned you feel.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's why people burn out or they hit something, right? Something breaks, something gives.
Super toxic high paying job, maybe a fortune for them to realize their values, to realize they are living in misalignment so that they can start the journey sooner than later. I'm not
But sure. I will also say it could be that you're Purusha, who you are, because I think this is where sometimes people assume when you're doing this kind of work, oh, it can never be that I go for that top paying job. That's not it. It could be that part of your Purusha is all I want is to go for that and earn as much money as I want. Great.
Yeah.
If that's coming from a place of intention, consciousness, and that is truly an expression of who you are, and you understand what that will give you and what that won't give you, and you've seen the playing field and you're going for it, that's amazing. Right? So I don't think there's anything inherently bad in that, because I think we've also gone too far the other way sometimes by saying, oh, doing all that is not going to give you satisfaction. I'm not one to say that because I'm not living in someone else's shoes. Maybe that is what's going to give it to them. And if you found that out through this work, then at least if you're going forward with that level of awareness and consciousness, you are still less likely to burn out because you know why you're doing what you're doing. It comes back to, why am I thinking, feeling, and doing what I'm thinking, feeling, and doing? And it could also change based on seasons of life. Going back to the hard realities of life. Maybe you were in your 20s, single, no responsibility. You can take all the risks that you want, right? So there's a reason that you're doing it. Maybe coming into your 30s, maybe you have a family, maybe you have other people to take care of, other lives you're responsible for. So you've made a very conscious decision. This is how these are my values, this is my Purusha, this is how I'm showing up very consciously. I know what I'm getting and I know what I'm not getting. I know what's in my control, I know what's not in my control, and I'm going to reevaluate in a year or two or what have you. That is still a conscious decision. I think the challenge comes when people are making decisions and doing things non-consciously and unaware, and then they hit that breaking point.
Yeah, there are a certain percentage of people that will survive at high paying
and thrive. Yeah.
And they are in alignment.
Yes.
100%.
Yeah.
I meant if you have enough pressure in this environment,
right,
you may find out sooner.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
If you have a boss who's keeping you in the same place, but he's treating you extra nice, supportive, but they know you are not fit for the position, right? It may take multiple years before you realize it's not you.
Yes.
So, so sometimes pressure is not a bad thing. Yeah, on your website you mentioned you were liberated. I really like the word.
Yes.
And could we talk more about this liberation?
Yeah.
Other than this fog and personal weakness and limiting beliefs, what are things that you could help your client liberate them from?
That's again a big word, and it's really liberated from living life for someone else, or other people's expectations or validations, right? Liberation in the roller coaster of emotions, and am I doing the right thing and not, and what did this person say and why and how am I affected, like all of these thoughts that go in our minds, because it goes back to samadhi and that samadhic way of being, where if you are showing up with self-assuredness, then you could still have they could still be adverse reactions to that, right? People may still be upset with you, there may still be conflicts, but because it couldn't be any other way, you are no longer reacting, you just are. And so in that, you are free.
I really want to go deep.
Yes.
You mentioned expectations.
Yes.
And validations. This is a question I've been thinking about recently. External validations are great. It's how most people are raised. And now we are talking about this intrinsic motivation, who we really are. But on the other hand, people are product of the environment.
100%.
How do you reconcile these things? Could one just have a purpose, just go all the way down the road, or they still need some kind of external validation?
Yes, it's a very prudent and insightful question. And I think we can all agree that it's a basic human need is to be heard, validated, acknowledged of some sort, right? We're all humans. We are all going to love that. The way that I see it is, for me now, if I get external validation, it makes me feel good in the moment, absolutely. But I've come to a point where, and this is through consistent practice, and I have my good days and my bad days, but on my good days, I'm able to truly practice that witness consciousness, lift myself out of it and say, I recognize and acknowledge that acknowledgement and validation feels good. I can also see that this is temporary and transient, right? And depends on, again, where that external validation is coming from. If it is coming from, and it goes back to core values, if it is coming at work like, hey, Ankita, good job, I know that's temporary, right? Where if it's my 15-month-old daughter who's giving me a hug, right? I know that's more permanent and long-term. But also that side, I'm not doing it for the external validation. I'm doing it because part of my core values is to be a good parent and a good mother. So even though I'm getting that validation, that's not why I'm doing it. So in these situations, or even at work, it's great to receive it, but I'm not doing it in order to get a good job. I'm doing it because part of my core values is work ethic, and going back to the purpose-driven path of, if I'm going to deliver something, I want to make sure that it has an impact, a positive impact. It has created value, right? And so that's how I delineate between the two, where it's nice to receive it, but that's not why I'm doing it.
Yeah, just in a vacuum lab environment, could one have a vision or a purpose and values? They live up to these values. They chase their purpose.
Yes.
And on their way, there's no external validation whatsoever, which is very rare.
Yes.
How could one know their way is wrong, or it's not their purpose?
My question becomes, do you need to know?
Oh, interesting. Yeah, for me personally, I know I think I have a purpose. I think I have a sort of value standing after it, but I still need security and external validation in some way. I call it external validation monster that I need to tame from the day-to-day basis. Yeah, I don't think I can get rid of them permanently. So what's your thoughts on that?
And so for me, if I need external validation, then then my why of what I'm doing is not strong enough. It's like, why am I doing this?
There are some basic needs, right? Yeah, how is that different from external validation? Yeah, in a practical world, if you do a job and you are getting paid, right? And if you really enjoy the job, you can do the job without getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
But you still need some financial
Your
resources
basic needs,
to
yeah.
support the family, support yourself, prevent from starving. So, yeah, how would you approach that?
Yeah. So this actually comes back to the whole intentionality and conscious awareness side of it, right?
Yeah.
Why am I doing what I'm doing? I know that I need to go out and earn a living for these reasons, to fulfill my basic needs. That's why I'm going and doing what I'm doing. That will then also help you adjust your energy and where you're putting in your energy and why. So it absolutely plays into it. But again, it plays into it from like a conscious aware. So this, again, this work and exercise is not about, give up everything and follow your dreams and passions. That's not what it is. Because that is a very privileged way of thinking.
Yeah.
I will say that. And because I think like neither of us necessarily come from privilege. There are a lot of other people who don't come from privilege. We all have to earn a living. From that perspective, there are many others who have much less privileges than I do. So I am not saying that you give up everything, because that is a very, very privileged way of being. It's more understanding, why am I going to, like, say if we're going to the grocery store, right? Why am I going to the grocery store? I need to feed myself and my family, right? So when you're in the grocery store, you're like, that's my basic need. I'm conscious and aware of that. So am I going to get distracted by this aisle, and this aisle? Or am I going to go around the periphery because that is why I'm here? So then you start thinking about your actions very consciously. So I don't think they're in opposition. I think it becomes part of the equation.
You mean, suppose if my purpose is to save the world, for example, and what I can do to save the world is I have to feed myself.
Right.
So I go out to wait tables, being barista, and then I have enough money, and then I save the world.
Right. And that's still that is still part of your purpose of, if this is part of my Purusha, then. And also, actually, another way to look at it, which is my work with people in a corporate setting, is where they say, oh, but the environment I'm in, I cannot show up as who I am. And I'm like, there is always a way to show up as who you are in even small ways, right? So even in terms of earning a living, like there are people who will say, but I'm a natural leader. I take initiative, but I'm not allowed to show up that way. I'm like, are you not allowed, or you're not allowing yourself to? Right? Are you putting that on other people? Like, what would happen if you show up and take that initiative and act like a leader in that workspace? I don't know. Right? So you're still going out there having your basic needs met, but you're still showing up as who you are there. And then maybe you're saying, okay, I fulfilled 10 to 20% of it. Maybe there's another like 80% of it that needs to be fulfilled outside. And that's where building a portfolio comes in, right? Your life portfolio has multiple dimensions. Where else can you get the rest of it from?
Yeah, in my case, I know it's a rather like oversimplified case.
Yeah.
Do I need to find a job that is saving the world while I accumulate some funds? Or I just wait the tables being barista and then save the world in my spare time?
See, this is, I'm going to try to find a way to articulate this, where we're dissecting the two again, when really it's one and the same. It's the one Thomas, right? If Thomas's purpose is saving the world, it's a very broad term. So in this work, what we would do is we would break that down. What does that mean to you? What does saving the world mean to you? I don't know. It could mean multiple different things. Right? And then through that work, sometimes it comes down to various, saving the world means, ensuring people have a better life. Saving the world means this. Saving the world means that. It's like, okay, well, how can those aspects show up while you wait tables? You're that same person showing up in all these facets. So the idea of your Purusha, it's not, this is what I'm supposed to do, but I'm just going to go do this in order for me to actually go what I'm supposed to do. You are one person. And to not be living in dissonance, you have to be able to show up as that same person everywhere, albeit maybe in different capacities. But there are ways, if you really break it down, to show up with some of those elements in different facets of life. And then it's identifying, that's the work of identifying, how can I show up as at least one or two facets of my Purusha, even in a place where I thought I couldn't.
Yeah, I'm curious. What's your purpose currently?
Yes. So, and I don't say it as purpose. I say, who is my Purusha, right? That's how I say it, because I feel purpose is a very loaded term. I'm first and foremost a personal transformation mentor who wants to leave a positive impact on the situations and people around me, right? And when I say that, and that's why it can manifest in different ways across different aspects of my life, right? At work, it's the work that I'm doing, the energy that I'm putting in those hours, in the time that I need to produce something. Is that purposeful? Is that meaningful? Is that going to lead to something better? Is that going to help someone from the team? Is that going to help achieve a project outcome? Then great, because that is part of my Purusha. How does that show up in my family life? Am I there and being supportive to my partner? Am I there and being supportive to my daughter? What does that look like? Am I being a supportive sister? Am I being a supportive daughter? Am I showing up for my friends? What does that look like? So it's the same Purusha, but it's showing up in different ways, and then that takes away from potential ego and fear. So at work, it's not about, I don't have to be in front of everyone and everything all the time, because that's not what I'm there for. I'm there to have an impact.
Earlier you mentioned there are different kind of clientele, right? Some people could benefit from your mentoring more.
Yes.
Some can hardly benefit. So, yeah, what's your take on that?
So, different strokes for different folks, right? What works for one person is not going to work for someone else. In the same way for me, right? The traditional mindset advice performance tools didn't work for me. I'm sure it works for others. And so it comes out very easily when I have initial discovery calls with people of, and my view is I'm very, very upfront about the work that I do, right? I will say, this is what I'm not about. This is what I cannot do, right? And this is what I can do.
What you don't do?
What I don't. Well, I'll talk more about like what I do, in that if someone comes to me and says, I am looking to, I'm not happy in my current job. Something's off. I need to change jobs. I need help changing jobs. I will say, I can absolutely help you with that. So it's not easy, but it's a straightforward understanding. What are your skills to date? Distilling that down, identifying, which industries that you then want to play in. Okay, identifying the terminology for those industries, help you build like a list of people you can reach out to, etc. Everyone knows this, right? This is not rocket science. That's option A. I could do that. But if we take several layers back, and if that's the work you want to do, I'm going to start with asking the question, what is it about where you are currently that's not working for you? To go deep, to then understand, are you running away from something, or are you running towards something? Because if you don't solve for everything that hasn't worked so far, then it could be that you're not going to find the answer in that next spot. But if you've taken the time to reflect and understand, okay, what hasn't worked for you here, and what has worked for you here, and then through that, like I had a conversation with someone where through this conversation, they were like, oh, actually what I'm looking for is I need to take on more roles outside. I need to take on more volunteering roles. That's where I'm gonna find what I'm looking for in this season of life. And so they stayed in their current job. So the answer they thought was, I need to look for a new job. But the answer ended up being, understanding that their life was a portfolio of different facets, and they needed to turn on the other lanes.
Yeah, earlier you mentioned you can do just mechanical career coaching.
Right.
And you can also go deep.
Yeah.
And find their true values.
Yeah.
Beneath it. Yeah, how deep they would like to go. So what's the proportion of these kind of that consume your time?
I don't see it as like a proportion, because it ends up happening that the people that get attracted to this work are the people that want to go deeper. That's
it
ends
just
up happening, right?
in order to work with you in a deep way, is so value driven, purpose driven. How vulnerable and open these clients are willing to be will determine the effects, right?
Yep.
So, yeah, how's that going so far?
So I'm very much not a proponent. This naturally falls out of living in alignment with your Purusha, that, you know, there's an adage of you're gonna receive the energy you put out.
Yeah.
When I started doing this work in yogic philosophy, I truly now understand what that means. So a positive implication of living from my Purusha is I naturally attract those people who are ready to open themselves up. And the ones that aren't will naturally self-select out, right? And because I'm all about agency, I very much say, you can pull out of this process at any point in time, right? No one's forcing anyone to be here. This is very much about you and what you want to get out of it. So if once we start this process, like say after one session, you're like, this isn't for me. I am not comfortable with this. 150%. That is your agency. Right. And no hard feelings. Like we stop the process. So I don't believe in locking people in to anything, because that will then completely defeat the purpose of this work. But I do tend to find, again, the people that, especially in the initial conversation, and a lot of the times it's not even a discovery call. It's just through meets, you know, I meet people in random places, and we get into a conversation and they say, can I work with you? I want to work with you. And so my philosophy is I'm not there to sell or promote or, hey, if you want this, if you've been feeling, you know, come here, I have all the answers. It isn't that. It's about the way that I've expressed now, hey, this is not my story. This is what didn't work for me. This is what has worked for me. This is the framework that I've now put around it. You know, if you're interested, always open to a conversation. And if you think that is something of interest to you, we can start it. And if at any point you think that's too much, we can pause it.
Suppose prospects have a discovery call with you and didn't become a paying customer, or a customer did one session with you and just walk away. You don't feel a tiny bit of frustration whatsoever?
To the question on external validation, that if I did, I would question, why am I doing this?
So have you ever experienced similar feelings at the beginning of the journey, or never?
You know what? I think I did, but I very quickly pivoted back to my why. It's like, why am I doing this? And I had to keep coming back to the fact that I'm genuinely intellectually curious about this. This is a passion project for me. Like, I cannot see myself not doing this, right? And it goes back to even going to West Africa. It was a question around, would I regret not doing this? It's the same thing right now. I'm not doing this for other people to say yes or no. I'm doing this because when I wake up on a Saturday morning, or I happen to wake up super early on any morning, and I find myself, or I'm transit, I find myself with 30 minutes of free time, I'm naturally drawn to this work, right? So again, it goes back to the why. It's like, I'm not doing this for anything else but for what it is.
Wow, you're really strong. Yeah. For my own experience, I did similar things in the past, but I'm so new in this. So if I have a very low conversion ratio, I may feel bummed a little bit.
Right.
And one day I just heard this analogy that if I'm a waiter selling fries in the restaurant and the customer says no to my fries, I don't feel a thing, right? But suddenly it becomes something me.
You've created.
Me.
Yeah.
And then it's different.
That's ego.
Yeah. Ego is screaming.
That's the ego.
Yeah, why don't you approve of
Exactly.
love me?
Exactly.
Yes. Negativity is an opportunity. That is so cheesy but true. Right?
But I would also say, what is negativity?
Yeah.
What does that mean? I don't know.
Yeah. Every time I meet you I feel so much energy just emanating from you, right? So, is there anything that drains you and you stay away from?
That is a very good question. I would say over time, I have learned to identify my energy drain, like blockers, and what drains my energy, and so I've automatically started moving away from that. The thing that would drain my energy the most is being involved in an activity or task, whether it's conversation with someone at an event, whatever. Like if I'm participating in some life moment, that is going nowhere. That to me is, and I know it sounds very high level, but that's the best way that I can describe it, right? Or if I think that, and that goes to if I feel like, and I hate to use this term, but there's no other way to describe it, wasting time, right? Or wasting my energy, my mind space right now. And so this goes back to the why. Why am I doing what I'm doing right now? Even if it is because it's the holiday season. I love watching Christmas, like the Christmas movies, right? Like the holiday movies that come out on Netflix. And so my evenings and my weekends, if I'm saying, hey, you know, my daughter's gone to bed, she's got an early bedtime at 7 p.m. I can turn on I'm not doing that to escape. I'm doing that because I've intentionally chosen to sit and enjoy that with my dinner. So what would drain me is if I am inadvertently choosing something that I wouldn't normally choose, whether it's an activity or an event. And that would include things like saying yes to something when I'm really not feeling it and in the mood, or saying yes to something when I know I cannot give it my 100%. And so I've tried to reduce that and minimize that.
How about a client that don't appreciate, don't recognize this approach that you do?
What would it matter? Because I'm not looking for their validation. Because at the end of the day, they're coming to me because it's something that they want to explore. And it's about treating every moment like an experience, right? I think the challenge comes when we put weight on a lot of situations. And that's the thing, you're solving for an outcome, going back to results, right? Are you solving for an outcome? Then you're not liberated because you're trying to get to an outcome versus you are doing something and choosing to be somewhere because it could not be any other way because it is part of your Purusha. Regardless of outcome, you're going to be doing it anyway. Then it just becomes an experience that you are witnessing as your drashta.
Yeah, other than that, do you have any other way to boost your energy level?
Yes. So it's all about, again, understanding who you are, right? And there's a concept around your sattvic way of being as well. So I'm not going to go into too many conceptual details of that because it's a longer conversation. But basically, your sattvic state is the state at which you are the most peaceful, balanced, aligned, whatever you want to call it. And through the work that we do as well, we try and identify what is the essence when you're in that way of being, and what are possibly some of the activities, like what is coming out when you're being that. So for me, my sattvic way of being includes finding downtimes for myself, right? And so that would mean I don't go anywhere without my headphones. So if I find myself even with 10 or 15 minutes of a break, I will sit and put on meditation music and do some breathing. Even if it is 2 minutes, right? It's, I need a breather. I need to step away. What is in my toolbox or toolkit that I can turn to? So I don't go anywhere without my journal, without my headphones, so that I know I always have something that I can latch onto to bring me back to perspective, to lift me into my drashta, and to bring me back some of that energy. And the second thing is really not being afraid to reschedule or say no. Like we really have a tendency to push through. I made a commitment. I need to do this. What will they think of me? What will the world think of me? But if I cannot give my 150% energy to something, I will upfront say, I am just not there, and it will not be impactful for either of us.
Will you just, for example, if you say yes to a thing, and would you say, oh yeah, I'm not feel like it anymore.
Yeah.
Let's cancel it.
Mm-hmm.
So how about that?
I've definitely done that, but I will do it with communication, because part of my core values is not wanting to put someone else out. So can I give as advanced notice as possible, right? Of course, if you become sick overnight, it's like there's nothing you can do, right? Again, what's in your control, what's not in your control, right? So if there is something that's in my control in terms of if I can have advanced notice, I will show up in that way, and I'll be very open. I won't make something up. Right? I'll say, you know what? I know this is why we were supposed to meet. I don't think we're going to get to where we need to get to, because my headspace is not there. I have all these other things going on right now. So I don't think it's going to be useful for you either.
It's not about what you communicate, it's about how you communicate.
Yes. It's always communication.
Yeah. And the nuance messages. In it that make all the difference, right? Even though you are just doing the same thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Canceling.
Yes.
Rescheduling.
Yes.
Yeah.
And this comes back to the human need to be seen, right? Forget acknowledged, validated, but seen. It's I see you, I respect your time, I respect what you may have put into this to prepare for it, or what have you. I truly am sorry. This is where I'm at right now. So I see you. I hope you also see me.
Yeah. You mentioned seeing people.
Yes.
Hearing people.
Yes.
So how does that fit into your transition, and not transformation?
I mean, seeing people, and this is something, I don't think this fits into the transformation mentoring. This is just who I am, or hope to live by, right? Because I come down to a big part of who I am is a purpose-driven path, and wanting to the extent that I can, that I humanly can, leave a positive impact. It comes down to, can I see someone? Can I understand where they may be coming from, their life situations, their life experiences? So even when I meet someone for the first time, and I think you've experienced this, my first question to them will be, what's your story? Right? I know a lot of times people start with, well, what do you do? Who are you? What's your name? I'm like, what's your story? Because that's also agency. And a lot of people get stumped, which I find interesting, because they're like, oh, what do you mean? You mean, what do I do? Or like where I'm from? And I'm like, it's however you wish to answer that, right? Ball's in your court. I want to see you. I want to see how you describe yourself, how you show up as you.
Yeah, for the record, I met you in the CFA Society program, and I have this amazing mentor. I met you in the program as well. I truly felt seeing her and how in multiple occasions, and which is very rare in my professional life. And once people see me, I start to see myself. I mean, it's a truly impactful thing to do. Yeah. And a thousand other things just come out from it, like pulling a chain to the ground.
It's unraveling.
That's into another story.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's really liberating.
It is. There it is. Yes.
It's visually liberating. Yeah. Yeah, I have this metaphor I like recently about people are incarcerated in their own brain sometimes, right? And it's great to break out from yourself. And what's more important could be there are multiple layers of the self. You break out the first layer, there's second layer, there's security monster, there's external validation monster. Yeah. There could be more monsters. Yeah. Seeing people who have a positive effect, just breaking out their cells, right? Yeah, coupled with other approach you use is really life changing. Yeah. Yeah, maybe we can talk about volunteer work. Sure. Yeah. You are the vice chair. Yeah. Sorry. Vice chair of Newcomer Women's Service Toronto. Yes. You also is a mentor for the CFA Society Toronto. Yeah. And the GEM is Girls E-Mentorship. Yeah. 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 So you are in multiple roles in this volunteer work. How does this volunteer work fit into your purpose? It again goes back to my core values and my Purusha, right? Who is my Purusha? My Purusha is someone who is leading a purpose-driven path and is showing up for the community. And
I always answer it as, it cannot be any other way, right? I cannot see it as any other way. So when it comes to Newcomer Women's Services Toronto, that's very close to me. I'm very passionate about that because my parents were newcomers to Canada. I was a newcomer to Canada. I've seen some of the challenges. And if I can, again, leave something positive behind through my work, through that, then I would love to. Girls Need Mentorship. It's about mentoring and really being there and being a listening space for young girls in high school, right? Who are on the precipice of really figuring out their lives. And so if I can in any way, shape, or form impart any of my learnings or my wisdom and take from it what you will, right? You can take it, leave it on the table, your agency. But if there's anything that I can support you in that, then I'm all here for it. And same with the CFA Society of Toronto. So I don't, like, for me, it's not about this is cool to do. It genuinely is. I could not show up in my community if I have the ability to do so. Because I had a big realization a long time ago where, you know, I have 2 hands, 2 feet, and this comes back to living in all these different countries, even growing up in India. You know, we were privileged to have a nice apartment, but you're overlooking, you know, individuals who are living in perhaps not so great housing, right? It's in direct contrast. And growing up in that direct contrast, it always stuck with me. I have 2 hands, 2 feet, you know, very lucky to be growing up in a family where my parents gave me a great education, instilled in me these great values. And what am I doing with it? Right? Like, am I waking up and where am I putting this energy? How am I showing up? What am I doing with it? And that has always stuck with me. And so ever since then, it's been, what more can I do in my confines of my energy? Because I cannot deplete myself completely, but to the extent that I can, what can I do?
You are a listener in this mentoring relationship, right?
A bit of both. So you have to listen. I would say not necessarily you're a listener. You are a facilitator and or a guide in someone else's journey. It's not your journey as the mentor. It's the mentee's journey. And you are there. And so, you know, one of the first questions I would ask is, after, what's your story? And then I'll share my story because this is who I am. So now that you know who I am, how can I best add value to you?
Yeah. Is it a truly unconventional way for mentoring, or is very common? I don't know.
That's a good question, right? Because I know different people have different ways of mentoring, and not only that, but different people have different reasons to be mentored, right? There are some people who want industry-specific mentoring, which is also totally fair, especially in fields that require very specific industry-level knowledge, right? You or I may not be the right person. Like if you want to go into medicine or engineering and you want very specific information on what credentials do I need, licenses, etc., that's also part of mentorship. So maybe that's what it is. But I think this gives a framework for anyone who wants to mentor to understand it's not about you and your life and what you would have done differently or not, unless that is asked of the person. But the first step is understanding who they are, them understanding who you are so that they know who they're talking to, and really taking their lead in what do you want. So with one of my mentees as well, who's an entrepreneur, so I have a whole entrepreneur stream as well, is understanding where are you in your business? Where do you need help? I don't know. I'm not going to come in and presuppose. And then through that conversation, we'll come out with a proposed work plan to say, okay, based on what I heard from you, this is how I think the next few months can go and we can work on, and these will be the outputs and deliverables of each step. Does this resonate? You tell me.
It's to be humble, right? Because whatever works for you may not work for them.
Exactly.
And whatever works for you in the past, like 10 years ago, may not work for them.
Yep.
5 years later.
Yeah.
And different people have different lens, right?
Yes.
Perspective of the
Yep.
world, core values,
yep.
purpose.
Different lived experiences.
Yeah. So these experiences may not be transferable unless they have some commonality in it.
It's a client-centric approach,
Yeah.
I would say, right? The mentee is is the client.
I only had one mentorship experience
Yeah.
in Toronto, so I'm not sure if that's the universal way to do it in
Mhm.
Canada.
I don't think there is one way of doing it that I have seen, right? Maybe there is. I have not seen that there's one way of doing it. I think everyone has their own approaches. This is the approach that I use this approach because again it goes back to, you know, treating others as I would like to be treated. I know this is how I would like to be treated if I had a mentor. So that is what I offer. And again, if it resonates with someone, great. If it doesn't, that's okay.
Yeah. Because really, if they want technical stuff, they find a consultants, right?
Yeah.
There's a million consultants
Yep.
out there. I think what a mentor can do is really sometimes mindset, right? Sometimes to hear,
Mhm.
to hold,
Mhm.
to see. Because just telling people what to do, what can be done.
Yeah.
I mean, they are helpful,
Yes.
valuable, but they are not life-changing, right?
Unless it's been asked for by the mentee. So within that client, that's why I say a client-centric approach, because it's not up to you to make the assumptions of what may or may not be helpful. Just ask the question, what is helpful? And consistently check in, right? So even at the beginning of every meeting, it's, hey, this is what I think we can discuss. Does that work? Is there something else?
It's a powerful question.
Yeah.
What else?
What else?
Yeah.
Am I missing anything? It's holding space. It's creating space for people to
Yeah, a safe.
a safe space. Yes.
And also, advice doesn't mean anything unless they are consistent with the recipient's
Yes.
values
Yes.
and belief of the world.
Yeah.
You are very humble in that regard, right?
It's not even like it's very kind of you to say, but I don't see it as being humble. I genuinely see it as you cannot be an effective mentor if you're doing that.
If the audience can walk away just one sentence or one idea,
Ooh.
what's that gonna do?
I would say it goes back to something I said earlier, which is you have more agency than you think. And while we all have different life circumstances and life experiences and different levels of privilege that we all come into based on who we are, what part of the world we've come from and live in, the one common theme is that we're all in a relationship to ourselves. And so the only thing you can ever solve for is yourself. There's no one or nothing else you can solve for. And that's why tied very closely to that is agency. And you do have the ability to identify what is in your control and what's not. There may be, some people who have a lot more in their control than you, because life's not always fair, but that doesn't mean that you don't have some level of agency. And in any situation, identify that so that you're in a productive mindset and not in a victim destructive mindset.
Own your life.
Yes, own your life.
Yeah, it's really beautiful.
Yeah.
Thanks so much for your time.
Great, thank you. It was a great conversation.
Yeah.